Well, I am legitimately cold, so you know what? It might not be the prettiest thing, but I think I might have to put this hoodie back on, y'all. Because I'm here freezing my ass off. Alright. There we go. Boo. Hi, Margot. What's up? What's up? I meant to stream way earlier today, and time just got away from me in a major way. Hello, everyone. Hi, Harper. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. I'm always so thrilled to see you guys in here. It's always so nice to start up a stream and have like 10 people flood in right away because they're just happy to see me. That is so cool. What a neat thing. Pretty dope for just some trashy white girl that lives in a trailer. That's pretty awesome. And you guys are all here before the trolls get here too, which is cool. That's the face I've always imagined with that emoji. What's up? What's up? What's up? Jack Mipper, Jack Mipper, Jack Mipper, Jack. I don't know how to say that name, but it's fun. It's really fun trying to. Let us be jovial before we get into the news and discuss the reasons why our country and planet has fallen apart, shall we? They say that after the war, they say that after the war, the Nazis vanished without a trace, but battalions of fascists still dream of a master race. The history books, they count up their defeat in 45, but they all came out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died. They said the prisoner at Spandau was their symbol of defeat, while Stas remained in prison and the victory seemed complete. So the vision of an Aryan world would never materialize. So why did they all come out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died? Did I get your pizza? Fuck yes I did. Fuck yeah I did. Oh, I got pizza and it actually came. There was literally one place left in my entire region that was still selling pizza. And not only did I manage to get my order in 5 minutes before they were set to stop taking orders, but they actually made it. It was pretty dank, and I got it delivered. There was a DoorDasher on duty. Apparently, though, the DoorDasher that was gonna deliver my order had to go to the hospital and have her mom that was driving around with her and learning the job take over. So that was interesting. I noticed that my DoorDasher was at the hospital for 20, not 20 minutes, but 15 minutes at least. And I was like, that's strange. What's that about? But I didn't message them or anything because I try to wait a while before I do that. As long as I can see their little thing on there, I assume I'm basically okay. I've got some kind of accountability there. And sure enough, I got an explanation after they got to it was actually a gas station that I ended up getting pizza from. It was a gas station that's got a Hunt's franchise that is present on DoorDash. That's fucking wild to think about. Yes, it was Hunt Brothers, Margot. It did indeed end up being Hunt Brothers, yeah. Pizza, yeah, your favorite food. Yes, that is indeed. Longtime viewers of mine will know. People have asked that question a dozen times, and that is my favorite food. What do you think about JFK? This is a ligma. This is a ligma. You don't give a fuck about what I think about John Fitzgerald Kennedy. This is a fucking ligma. Hit me with it. JFK in your ass, JFK in your balls, JFK in your tits. This rings of the same energy as me asking people what they think about the DNC, okay? Surprisingly, no ice that night. Last night, the Portland ice protests were pretty mild, or pretty wild. MAGA was out in force that night. Surprisingly, no ice. I think that like some kind of message is being like promulgated right now, and I don't have to fucking say this like it's some kind of conspiracy theory. You can kind of just look and see on Twitter. There is a message being put out there right now. Like the MAGAs are being called to action. So, you know, like any place they can make themselves present, I think they are trying to make themselves present. No, seriously, I do. I'm watching a show about James Franco stopping the JFK assassin. Okay, well, I will be honest with you. I really don't know that much about JFK. I wish I could tell you more. You know, I wish I could tell you like some like aspects of his policy for sure. But really, the only specific piece of information, and really like the only cool piece of information I know about JFK off the top of my head, is that he navigated the country through the Cuban Missile Crisis. That he was like usually considered pretty exemplary of leadership due to his ability to navigate that particular crisis, in addition to other crises that were going on at the time. It was, of course, the Cold War. But that is about the extent of what I know about JFK, sadly. No spamming, please. No spamming. I caught one of them likely tweaking out, sig heiling a bunch of times. I saw that, Ignar. I did see that. That was freaking wild. I can't believe they're getting this bold about it. I mean, I can actually, but your first instinct is to say stuff like, I can't believe it, right? Because it's like, it does beggar belief that we are seeing like a return to something we've seen in such regular form. Like, it's not abnormal for history to repeat, but history doesn't usually repeat like this. It doesn't usually repeat the exact same melody. Usually it's that the beats repeat, like the major cycles of history repeats. You know, it's not that history repeats, it's that it rhymes, is what some people will say. This is an instance where I feel like we really are seeing like just a legitimate return to like not some kind of weird fusion between the 1860s and 70s and the Nazi era. And people just seem to be pretty openly about it, those that are trying to get that world built. Now, granted, take heart in this. They're only about a third of the country, according to polling. But that means lefties and centrists need to get the fuck out there. Because centrists, I got news for you. You're just as easy to put on the chopping block as anybody else is, okay? Purity movements will not see that purity in anyone but themselves. And if you don't have, like, if your idea of a good time is not having to live your life by someone else's lights, then, you know, you might want to fucking step up here. Thank you, Pangloss6413. I always appreciate seeing you in here. $4.99. Thank you so much. Let me heart that comment. If Trump actually puts boots on Greenland, then Denmark has the right to invoke NATO Article 5. Also, I hope you stay safe and happy. Thank you, Pangloss. I hope I do as well. And I kind of think that Trump is trying to see exactly. I mean, he's literally, I know it's like fucked, you know, like for a long time it was like not good to make the Nazi comparison with Trump, but like, okay, like the thing that indicates in a lot of people's mind the moment when Nazi Germany moved from being some kind of insular thing that was mostly able to keep its hatred self-contained to some kind of project that actually stood to be a threat to the world, right, is when they started taking over different parts of Europe. Now, it wasn't seen that way back then, but looking back on it, historians pretty roundly look at that as the moment when Germany started to become a threat, because they started to annex places, they started to take over places, and slowly but surely they were allowed to take over more and more until it became such a profound problem that the Brits had to respond. The French were actively fighting a resistance movement, etc., etc. The Russians were actively fighting them on the east. They'd basically taken over all of Western Europe except for the UK. And it literally took America coming and helping the Brits and the French resistance movement to push the Nazis back. Like, that's what finally gave the Russians and the Allies, really, like in general, not, you know, it's what gave all of us the edge to finally fucking push the German army further and further into Germany to push them out of France and to eventually push Hitler all the way back into his bunker in Berlin, where, well, we all know how that one ended. But the point is, it all started with him taking over other countries nearby and like engaging in this like modern imperialism. And we're starting to see Trump do that exact same tactic. He says that we are going to be ruling Venezuela for the foreseeable future. I didn't forget about Venezuela just because this ice shooting happened. It's a tragedy, and we need to be talking about it. But we also need to be talking about the fact that Trump is literally doing like a weird fusion of Nazi imperialism and American fucking Monroe Doctrine imperialism in Venezuela, and is planning on doing it in fucking Greenland. America literally got Greenlanders to like the Danish crown for the first time. I know. Greenlanders for the first time in the world are like, we have never really considered ourselves that close to the Danish crown, but today in the choice between America and their weird orange crazy fascist and the Danes and their relatively normal king, I think we choose our king for the first time in our history, actually. Yeah, the first time in history. Everyone agree? Yeah, 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 yeah. When I don't know what accent they have, I just make it generic. I just like put some generic slant to my words. How has anything Trump's done personally affected your life, the day-to-day stuff? Ooh, turning the question back on me, aren't you? So I can say that people are way more willing to engage in like hateful garbage to me and to other trans people broadly because Trump's in office. Not to say that they're like hate criming people. I mean, they definitely are, but that's not exactly what I'm really even going about, because I haven't obviously been hate crimed, or I would have told you guys all about it. But I feel like there's like the most obvious like thing is the cultural change that has accompanied the rise of Trump. But we could also talk about the price hikes and the continuous rise of grocery store prices and the overall like remaining economic untenability of our system. We could talk about the fact that energy bills are going up because of his utter refusal to place any kind of safeguards or any kind of restrictions on AI or the data centers required to keep it up. We could talk about, we could talk about the ICE raids, which are driving prices even further up. Like they are going to like end up like decreasing supply and like increasing labor costs even more, which is going to continue to drive prices up. Now, I've got solutions for all of these things, which involve humanistic answers for everyone involved. But if we're just going to talk about how the president being in power has impacted my daily life, I think that like it depends on which way you want to approach it. But I think you can come at it with a bunch of different directions and be perfectly valid in your assessments. How do I push people to be gay and trans? What the fuck are you even talking about? Am I sitting here like, hey, please be gay? That's what I really want you to do, is be gay right now. Like, when have I ever done that? Ain't chat supposed to talk about gender first for 45 minutes? I forget about that. You know what? I'm not letting it happen today. I'm not letting it. We're not gonna do it, okay? Subscribers only mode, slow mode of 20 seconds. If you're just gonna sit in here and call me a man all night, you're gonna subscribe, bitch. Thank God now it's only subs only. Yeah, literally. Sub-only mode definitely works. I've been on subbing from channels I sub to, chat in for a minute, LMAO. Yeah, it really does. Yeah. It really works well. Honestly, it's a great thing to do. Oh, by the way, if you want to make sure your comment or question gets read or answered, consider sending a super chat. I do read every single one, as long as it doesn't violate TOS. So yeah, President Trump is planning on taking Greenland. It seems 100% certain. He's literally told, apparently, military officials to draw up plans for it. So it's as good as done. It might as well be considered done. I wouldn't be surprised if before I get done with this stream, we hear news of the first strikes being launched in Greenland. Or the first boots on the ground in Greenland or something like that. I really don't know what that's going to look like, though. Are they even going to want to strike Greenland? Or are they just going to, like, declare it? Like, that's the weird thing that I'm not sure about, right? Like, there's all kinds of political commentators that seem kind of, like, blindsided about this, as if it's not something that America has engaged in for a very long time. It just seems new because it's been, 50 years or so since we've, like, really tried, like, effectively. Okay, no, it's not even been that long. The reason why it feels like unprecedented and shit is because we normally haven't moved this quickly on it, at least not in most people's living memory. So, like, you have to kind of look back into the early 1900s and the 1800s and the late 1700s to see examples of America taking broad swaths of territory and doing it quickly. It's not really common in the modern day for us to do that. Even when we had 9/11, it took us a while to get into Afghanistan, and it took us even longer to get into Iraq. Hi, Arya. What a genuine question. What's your biological gender? I mean, I was born assigned male at birth. I'm a trans woman, if that's what you're asking. Greenland would be dumb to not join the US. Nobody's attacking anyone. Greenland doesn't want to join the US. Why would Greenland be dumb to not join the US? What does the US have going for it? We have a private healthcare system, whereas Greenland is currently covered under Denmark's state fucking, single payer model, right? So they would be getting worse healthcare. The United States education system is objectively worse than the Danish education system, so they would be getting worse education. I'm a douche? Yeah, that's true. I am. That's an apt observance. You're right. Greenland already is a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Yeah, I know. Denmark and the United States will sign a defense pact that allows the USA more control of the land in exchange for footing the bill of an air fleet to protect NATO in the Arctic. I mean, like, that's not us taking over Greenland, though. Like, if that's all we do, I'm okay with that. Like, I mean, depending on the terms of it, I guess, like, as long as they remain Danish citizens, like, I don't want the people of Denmark to be, because ultimately the people of Greenland are, as it currently stands, they are an extension of the Kingdom of Denmark. And like, unless that changes by their own independent vote, which, by the way, 95%, literally 95% of Greenlanders want to remain a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. They have done polls and elections on this in the past. The opposition movement is incredibly small. Do you hate America? No. No, I can hate members of America's government without hating America, as it turns out. Just like I don't think that you guys hate America whenever a Democrat is in in the presidency. I really wish that people on the right realize that you can criticize the president no matter what side of politics you're on, and still not hate America. Can Greenland invade the US instead? No. Like, just pragmatically, no. Glitch Dash, we love America enough to hold it up to a higher standard. Exactly. I love America enough to call her out on her stupid bullshit. You ever heard of tough love? I think America's been due for some tough love for a while now. And you guys agreed with that when it was Biden in office. But now that it's Daddy Trump in office, you guys don't want to hold his fucking feet to the fire. That's the difference between you and me. See, I'm not a hack. Hope you're well. I'm glad to partake in the stream. Well, welcome, Radiant Goddess. Thank you for being a member. Thank you to anyone who is a member, dude. You guys make these fucking streams possible. Along with the people who donate through Cash App and Super Chat. You can find my Cash App down below in the description, and Super Chat is obviously right down there for anyone who wants to make sure their comment or question gets read or answered. Trump is your daddy? No, I'm like completely fucking nuanced about the president. I recognize when he does things that I like, and I talk massive shit when he does things that I don't like. When he rescheduled marijuana, I gave him my little golf clap. And then when he invaded Venezuela, I said, this is fascist shit. This is Iraq. This, like, literally, this is not how a democratic country conducts foreign policy. Sorry. I can recognize that he, it's kind of like, you know, if you've got a person who, like, looks at the sky and they're like, that's blue. And then they look at a black person and they're like, they're unworthy of life. You can kind of like separate those two statements and be like, one of those is complete retarded gibberish, and one of those is an apt description of the world the way it is. You know, like, the sky is actually legitimately blue. But merely because they're correct about that doesn't mean they're correct about another goddamn thing comes out of their mouth. It's like, yeah, like, do you know Hitler liked dogs? You know, like, what, we're going to listen to everything the stupid old kook had to say because he liked dogs? Retarded. Do you know the history of Hawaii? Yeah, it was massively colonized, and America was its last and most recent colonizer, which finally was able to transform it into a state. They had a long series of I believe Hawaiians are part of the larger ethnic group known as Polynesians, I believe. But they had a really fucking long history on the island before, white people showed up and started taking shit over and colonizing the fuck out of them and turning them into at first, like, for the longest time, it was agricultural interests that ruled over Hawaii. In its colonial era, and then after it kind of transitioned into being a state is when it became more of a tourism destination. Weed has not been reclassified? No, but he did sign an executive order telling them to do it, which maybe that'll happen. I mean, maybe it'll help. I don't know. I guess it just depends, right? There are plenty of fucking government institutions that don't seem to take Trump very seriously, and thank God for it. But it sucks that the DEA is one of the ones that isn't taking him seriously on this. Or the FDA. I forget which one it is that has to reschedule weed. We love Christian nationalism. Not around here, we don't. We debate the fuck out of Christian nationalists around here. I think that Christian nationalism is one of the most poisonous ideologies that exists in America. Prove me wrong. And the history of humanity is colonization? Yeah. Do you know the history of slugs is being stepped on and eaten by birds? How dignifying. Sir, have you lost your mind? Ma'am. Bro just yapping. Motherfucker jealous because they can't yap as well as I can. It sucks to be that way. But you don't have to be that bitter, friend. You can just kind of like live your life and learn to talk. What political party are you? I don't subscribe to any of America's major parties. I don't believe in the Democrats. I don't believe in the Republicans. I think the Greens have potential, but that it keeps getting wasted on a fucking candidate that's never going to go anywhere, ultimately. Jill Stein is a dead end. I'm sorry. I love her, but I think there's a chance that she's a Russian shill. Not that I'm not some horrible like fucking I'm not one of these people that's like death to all Russians or whatever. I'm not scared of the Ruskies, but I do think that America should look out for its own interests, at least to some degree, and that having a Russian asset as president would probably not be a great thing. Source, look at Trump. You know, you want to know what having a Russian asset as president looks like? Look at Donald Trump. Okay, I don't want to repeat. A repeat of Trump, but from the left is not exactly what I'm looking for out of the presidency. No, but for real, I don't think she has any chance of getting elected. I think she has just like been like thoroughly like the voters have seen her. The people that are gonna see her are gonna see her. The people that she's like gonna need to reach are never gonna. It's just a pipe dream. But I do think that we are ripe for a third party. Don't get me wrong. We are ripe for an independent movement. It just can't be Jill Stein and the Greens, okay? And it's probably not going to be somebody like Gary Johnson and the Libertarian Party either. Sorry to tell you. It's gonna have to be an actual fucking economics first labor leftist party. What's your opinion on drugs entering America? That we need to be accurate about what we're talking about when we talk about drugs entering America. For example, the president has been creating a false narrative, creating the idea that Venezuela is apparently some big shipper of drugs to America. He says specifically that Venezuela ships a bunch of fentanyl to America. In fact, the vast majority of drugs that go through Venezuela are destined for Western and Central Europe. And what drugs from Venezuela do end up in the United States are primarily cocaine. Source: the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, World Drug Report 2025. So as of 2025, the UNODC World Drug Report, like accurately conveys the fact that Venezuela is, yes, a trafficking through point for drugs. But most of those drugs are not destined for America. They're actually destined for Western Europe and Central Europe. And most of the arrests tied to cocaine related to the Andean region that is passed through Venezuela that does end up in the United States, like it's such a small percentage of the overall drug trade that it isn't even like it's not even like something that we really think about in terms of like this is a big focus on our war on drugs rhetoric and our war on drugs policy or anything like that. And when it comes to fentanyl, though, actually the main producer is Mexico. Mexico is actually the biggest producer of fentanyl, which is made from precursor chemicals that come from primarily from China. And yeah. So, I mean, the United States is a huge destination country for drugs because we're a huge drug consuming nation because we love to get high. That's what I think about drugs being imported into the U.S. If you want to stop drugs getting imported into the U.S., man, convince Americans to stop wanting to get high. Dude, you know how many people I've heard talk shit on drug dealers? Like, I kind of think that they're like a part of a social ill. But ultimately, I think that the way we deal with that is not through my condemnation or through jail time or anything like that. I think it's by treating it as a medical issue. I feel like we completely miss the point of not miss the point, that's a bad way to put it, but I feel like we completely missed the mark. That's the word I was looking for. I feel like we completely missed the mark when it comes to the way we enforce drugs in this country and the way we deal with drug policy in general. Are Trump's statements about acquiring Greenland best understood as genuine territorial ambitions or as negotiation rhetoric intended to pressure allies into expanding U.S.-based and Arctic security? Well, that is the big debate right now. Like, that is the fucking biggest debate. And I think that it's genuine territorial ambitions. I don't think that he would be like, I don't know though, man, but I'm so on the fence about it actually, because like, here's the thing, right? It would be a very savvy negotiation move if he was trying to make sure that he just gets a lot of leverage on whatever deal he ends up cracking, right? It would make sense. He's just invaded Venezuela and established occupation there, says we're going to be controlling them and their economy for the foreseeable future. And if he was trying to get a really preferential deal from the people on the ground in Venezuela, or I'm not sorry, not in Venezuela, but the people on the ground in Denmark and in Greenland, if he was trying to get a really good deal out of that, he could use this rhetoric as a way to bolster his position, to make it seem like he actually has real territorial ambitions, when in fact he just wants to, like someone suggested earlier, get more control over the land, the ability to build more bases, the ability to probably engage in resource extraction, which is the thing I'm most afraid of. I really don't like the idea of every fucking corner of the globe being used to maximally produce resources as much as we can, as fast as we can. Like, there's a reason why we're not trying to do that. Like, Trump seems dead set on literally sapping the world of everything it has. Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he just wants to establish more territorial control over it. Maybe it will just be like a buildup of military action in the Arctic, because that's what a lot of people theorize. But, you know, I haven't done a whole lot of research into Greenland yet. I don't know exactly what resources are there. I don't know if that would even be something that we should worry about. You know, for all I know, it's nothing but ice and penguins up there. I don't know. I know they got some Inuits, you know. Other than that, I really, you got me. What pronouns are you? She, her, hers. I have mixed feeling towards Venezuela. Maduro was a dictator. There's no way around it. Venezuelans are happy, but you do have a point with this opening up opportunities of us going in other places. Not only does it open us up opportunities for us to go to other places, but it's just not the way that fucking foreign policy is supposed to be conducted in a rules-based system like the one we're supposed to operate in. Under the framework that we are supposed to operate in, we should have went to the UN and demanded a recall of the elections in Venezuela. We should have demanded UN oversight over those elections, and we should have demanded a UN peacekeeping force to enforce the transition to the government that would have won in the face of those elections. That is how you fucking deal with this. This is how it's been dealt with other countries that have had this problem in the past. And there are countries that have recovered from regimes with authoritarian tendencies by getting their governments to agree to this shit. Effective framework. We just didn't want to engage in it here because, in my opinion, Trump is more interested in the imperialistic route. He wants to reawaken the Monroe Doctrine, and he wants to do it using the neoconservative reasoning and justification that figures like, you know, Paul Wolfowitz and Donald Rumsfeld and Robert Pearl and all these other people, or Richard Pearl, whatever his name is, all these other fucking people have been building for years and years and years and years. To be honest, rule only work for the people who follow them. Yeah, I mean, that's why we're supposed to be one of the people that follows them, right? Is because we can kind of be the enforcers when it comes to international law and shit like that. Like, how can we justify ourselves as the enforcers if we don't even give a fuck about the rules? Like, at some point, you know, like, unless your plan is to make America conquer the entire world, which I don't want that. I don't want my country to rule the whole world, man. I just don't. I'm sorry, I don't want that much power concentrated in so few people's hands. It just sounds like a bad idea to me. I'm sorry. It's the UN's job to stop tyrants. Please explain to me why acquiring Greenland would be a good thing. Exactly, Snow said. Thank you. It's the UN's job to stop tyrants. If the fucking UN had been called and summoned and ordered basically by America to intervene on behalf of the interest of democracy in Venezuela, I guarantee you they could have done so. This is a fucking tactic that could have been used. People just don't want to see it as such because it defies the narrative that this was some justifiable action that, yeah, maybe it wasn't done the exactly right way, but we shouldn't even be complaining because Maduro was such a bad guy. But nobody seems to care about the precedent it sets. Nobody seems to care about the broader implications of it. And nobody seems to see the very clear allusions that can be made to situations like Iraq, where we stayed there for so fucking long and spent so much money on that place. And ultimately, didn't it, like, we really, like, the American people saw no payout from that. There were American contractors who were well paid for it. There were some American companies that made some really good profit on it. Some people involved in those companies probably did pretty well with their retirements and shit. Thank you for the trans positive hearts. By the way, make sure you send a super chat if you want to make sure your comment or question gets read or answered, y'all. I do read every single one as long as it doesn't violate TOS. Iran was handled bad, so what we did in Venezuela bad? I said Iraq, actually. Iran was also handled badly, but I said Iraq. No, what we did in Venezuela is bad for its own merits, but nobody sees the allusions to Iran, and I think that that's yet another suite of reasons why I think we can be assured that this is not a good idea. We have seen this song and dance before. We have seen the outcome. We have played this game. You like me? Thank you, Dahlia. What's the plant next to you? I wish I knew what this thing was. I genuinely do not know. It's got little thorns, and it grows out a big, long streamer like this. It's growing this big, long streamer that wants to connect to something. And all the leaves are on a very similar stem, but none of them are doing that. So I don't know. And the one that is doesn't have any leaves on it. So I don't know what kind of plant it is. Some kind of trailing vine kind of thingy. Guyana is going to be next. Guyana? Has that been on people's minds? Is that a thing? This might be a dumb question, so I apologize. Do you think America's biggest problem is that we are constantly trying to mediate other countries through force rather than let them do it naturally? I don't think it's one of our biggest problems. I think it might be our biggest problem foreign policy-wise. Yeah, we have a real desire to be kingmakers, and that's because our government has been infected for a very long time with, well, I mean, honestly, if you want to make as wide an overview about it as you fucking possibly can, what you would say is that America has always trended towards imperialism. We have always tried to engage in it to one degree or another, but it's only really in the last 80 years that we've been able to codify it into a philosophy and a movement and an ideology to the point where it has infected so much of our government that we can now do it ostensibly under the color of law, or at least without being challenged on the global stage. And I think that that is honestly the biggest problem. It's not even like, like, obviously the biggest problem is the fact that we're doing that, but ultimately, if we were challenged, we would probably quit it. I doubt very much that Donald Trump would continue this shit if we started losing targets in the Pacific or whatever. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he would just escalate. Maybe Donald Trump really would wage war with the entire world. I would hope that his generals would stop him. I would hope that someone in the American system would stop him. MAGA, would you guys stop him? Would MAGA rise up if Trump was like, I'm going to blow up the world? Everyone is defying me. They don't want to see MAGA come true. So I'm going to blow up the world. Just hypothetical. Would you guys are you guys willing to say that at that point, if that absurd situation happened, that you would in fact rise up against the president? Because you guys might be the only ones who could convince him. Like, it might literally take people like burning their MAGA hats en masse or something. Your Trump impersonation is pretty good. I think it's kind of hacky personally, but thanks. Great impression. Thank you. Yes, obviously, but the president wouldn't do that. That would be ridiculous. Okay, well, thank you for at least saying you would fucking do it for that. I'll take that as a victory, friend. No, I don't know. I think Trump might, like, we've had some presidents that are definitely capable of that kind of egotism, friend. I don't know about you, but I feel like we've seen that pattern before. Like, I don't think Bush Jr. would have done it. I don't think Obama would have done it. I don't think Biden would have done it. I don't think first term Trump would have done it, because first term Trump was actually kind of anti-war. Like, I think that, you know what I really think happened? I don't believe these people who say that that Trump faked his assassination attempt. I think that they're ridiculous. I think not, maybe not on everything, but I think that's kind of a silly idea. And I think that it changed him. I think he went through a complete transformation, and I think it has probably accelerated his aging and accelerated his mind's decay, but I think it also made him way more of an authoritarian because he felt defiant in the face of that bullet, I think. I think it was a catalyzing moment in what was an otherwise quite muddled philosophy. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate that. He's an egomaniac. I don't deny that at all, but I don't believe he's doing any major wrong. He's nuts, and nobody can say otherwise, but he's a good president. I just don't agree. I just don't think that this Venezuela shit's going to pan out, man. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think so. I keep telling people, MAGA and liberal alike, I keep telling people, like, dude, we here on the revolutionary left will be waiting with you with bated breath for the next 4 years till you guys finally realize that this Venezuela shit is a boondoggle. We should have never been there in the first place. It'll happen. It'll happen. The revolutionary left bears the very sad and unfortunate burden of being correct, but way too soon, and like before anyone's comfortable enough to like recognize it or admit it. And we get called crazy for it, but we stick to our guns, and 4 years later we turn out to be right, and people are like, oh yeah, we really shouldn't have been in Venezuela this whole time. That was kind of stupid. But whatever. You can't win them all. Revolutionary replaced with what? When I say the revolutionary left, I mean people that want to completely, well, I guess your question is kind of fair, but, I'm not necessarily saying you need to completely replace the American system, because I think the American system is one of those systems that could actually be adapted pretty well to market socialism, which is what I would want us to revolutionize our system into. I'm also not a fan of, like armed revolution or anything like that. I think that peaceful, long-term, sustained sit-ins can achieve every one of our policy agendas. Where did you find that pentagram in the background? That was a gift, actually, I think. I don't think Trump could handle another 4 years. He's getting tired now. He's still nuts, but I can see he's slowing down with his speeches. Enthusiasm is, yeah, dude. Trump is going through a real slowdown, and I'm not the only one who sees it. I think even people on the right are starting to see it. His energy is way lower than it used to be. I mean, I hate Trump, and I don't hate him, I guess. I do. I try not to hate human beings in general, if that makes sense. But I do hate his presidency. I hate his, like, president persona, find it cringe. But even I can recognize that back in 2016 and 2015, it was very fun watching him tear down the Republican Party. It was very fun watching him tear down the Democratic Party. And because, like, he was tearing down the fact that they were all corporate shills. Now he's just as much of a corporate shill as they were, and really he always was, but he was way better at disguising it back then because he had way more fiery rhetoric, and he was telling people like Hillary Clinton, yeah, it's a good thing I'm not elected to president, because if I were, you're elected. If I get elected, you're going to jail. Stuff like that. I can't even deliver it like he did. I'm not trying to like fawn over him. I'm just saying that at one point he had energy, and now he sounds very tired. He's not really thrilled. You could tell. He's just kind of becoming an old man now, and you can see it on his tan lines. Autumn for 3 months. Much love. Thank you so much. Your voice is so soothing to me, like listening to a piano in a cathedral. Now that's a bit much. Nuh-uh. I doubt. I do sound like Trump. I'm telling you, I've got an impression. I guess more or less when I think about it, the fact that we are always sticking our fingers in everyone's pie, when I think we should look internally and help us repair our country is build ground up. Yeah, no, 100%. And that's why I think that there is some credence to what you were saying about that perhaps being our biggest issue. But I think ultimately our biggest issue is that we don't focus enough internally. I think that we could focus internally a shit ton, and also be part of the community of global watchdogs. I don't mind us being part of a global community of watchdogs that invokes, UN rule and UN peacekeeping coalition teams whenever there's some tyrannical government that rises up that's oppressing its people and needs to be voted out. It needs to be fucking removed electorally and, coerced into leaving if they have to be. Like, I'm fine with that. I just want it to be under the color of law. I want it to be under fucking proper procedure. And I don't think war is ever, ever, ever an option. I would say most 99% of people are going to choose their life, their child's life, their wife's life, their husband's life over war. People like to live. They don't like to die. People like to live. They don't like to be crushed under a collapsed building, sent tumbling with a Tomahawk missile. Autumn A 2025, thank you so much for the $5. I appreciate it so much. Had an amazing day today, and I hope you're having just as amazing day, Phoebes. Well, I have not been nearly as productive as I wanted to be today. I did go on 2 paced walks, which was nice. Did some laundry. Prepared a bottom round roast that I'm going to be sticking in the smoker tomorrow. So that was kind of cool. I got that sitting in the fridge now, drying out. Let's see. Or curing, I guess. Let's see here. What else did I do? Well, I did my normal everyday, like, fucking shit you gotta do. Like, fed and watered the animals and all that shit. But I wanted to stream twice today, and I didn't. Aria Marie with the 2 months. Gonna go get some food, BRB. Nice, Aria. Make sure you let us know what you get, because we all want to know. We're going to be hungry, too. What do you think about Venezuela? I think that this is going to be one of those conflicts that we regret in 3 or 4 years, and I hope that people remember me saying that this is a boondoggle whenever that happens. I'd rather peace than cheap gas. I'd rather peace than cheap gas as well, Giorgio. That's what I'm saying. Or Giorgio. Giorgio. The fact that the war on drugs is a wasteful campaign, especially when our motto is all about personal freedoms, it's so polarizing. Came with the left. The biggest problem is aesthetics and not being liked. Oh, yeah, dude. Well, the left has internal organizing problems, dude. We've got such a problem with purity politics, and I think that purity politics is right if you're talking about a presidential candidate or a candidate for a lot of different offices, frankly. But I think purity politics kind of go a little far when you're talking about, like, people that just want to join the overall party, or people that are voices and content creators that want to come over. You kind of have to allow enough space for those people to exist, in my opinion. We have more peace than before? No, we don't. We literally have we have a sovereign country's fucking president in jail. And it's not our own, who actually does belong in jail. What if it ends up working out and Venezuela turns back to a democracy? Well, it'll be a fucking first in America's playbook. Let me put it that way. It'll be the first time that America's ever used coercion and force and Chinook helicopters to bring peace and democracy to a country. Even if they do achieve elections, which, by the way, every time Marco Rubio is asked about elections in Venezuela, he laughs at the question and derides it, as if it's absurd to even question the idea. Interesting. Very interesting. Something had to change in Venezuela for their people's sake, but it's just the way it was done is the problem. I feel so lost that I am left, but I do not like most of the loudest party members. They constantly talk about being inclusive and accepts the typical outcast, but be the first to also exclude people. Oh, yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. So I am of the opinion that as long as someone agrees on the basics, you should count them as a leftist. And that if someone considers themselves a leftist, you should also just let them in. And but I'm also Like, I'm a big believer in the term solidarity, and I think you would do really well to look into solidarity politics, because solidarity leftism is the kind of leftism that you're looking for. The idea is, I might not agree with a conservative union guy on gender issues. I might not agree with them on immigration, but I do agree with them on the right for us to organize and to fight for our rights as workers. We have a common interest there. We have solidarity there. And our interests as workers, not only does it mean that we have an incentive to look out for each other, but that incentive by itself creates another incentive. That is the incentive to know each other, to care about each other, to look out for one another. This combined actually causes people to come over gradually, year over year, generation with painful generation, on social issues. It makes people eventually realize that trans people are human, that black people are human, that Mexican people are human. Whatever group it is, they've got some bigoted mindset about. These are the ideas that help move people over. So I think you would do well to look into solidarity leftism, because it says that, like, you really need to be more concerned with achieving common goals and rising up the the social status of everyone on class lines. Like, we really need to be more worried about, like, wealth inequality and the various outcomes from that, and the causes of it, really, more than the outcomes even. Because if we can address that, if we can start to fucking bring people up, if we can start to raise the tide a little bit, the pressure goes down. And I know this is a horrible example to use, but if you want a real world example that you can look up yourself, look up these statistics on lynchings throughout the 1900s, and then look at a graph of cotton prices throughout the 1900s. It's actually a really interesting read. As it turns out, during times of economic downturn, so when cotton prices are low and farmers ain't getting much for their cotton, it, like that resentment um, kind of shatters through the town, rip waves through, sends waves through the town, basically. And that is when the lynchings would go up. Similarly, when cotton prices were nice and high and everybody was getting paid richly for their cotton, suddenly the lynchings go down. Not as many of them. The reason for that is because during times of economic distress, people will take out their anger on anything they have around them, anything they can be propagandized to take their anger out on, other than the bourgeoisie who are keeping them down. The bourgeoisie who set the cotton price so that it just perfectly fits their wallets, who are never willing to buy cotton at a loss to make up for the misfortunes of the poor farmer, rather than blaming the billionaires and the bureaucrats and um, the landed at the time, right? They were made to believe they needed to blame the slaves, and then after slavery was eradicated, it was the various sharecropping and just generally laboring black people that inhabited the South. And it was the tragic, repeated cycle of violent racism that is, in my opinion, indicative of an overall pattern and tendency in human beings to enact violence and vengeance against people unrelated to our circumstances whenever circumstances get bad, which is just one more reason why you should not let circumstances get bad, why we are so incentivized as a human species to seek policies that make it so that it's very hard for someone to go off the deep end like that. It is billionaires' fault, actually. Trust me, I know. By the way, consider sending a super chat if you want to make sure your comment or question gets read or answered. I do read every single one as long as it's TOS. Thank you to everybody who super chatted so far. I also have my Cash App in the channel description and the description of the stream, in fact, if anybody prefers donating that way. Hearing you talk about solidarity, leftism, and how this is the first time it sounds like I agree with most everything they stand for. Why isn't more people talked about it? Solidarity is what U.S. is missing. People don't talk about it because the media doesn't talk about it. The media doesn't talk about it because the media makes a ton of money on keeping people like me and you and the people in this chat all divided against one another, all angry at each other. They don't profit if you read about concepts like solidarity leftism and just solidarity in general. They don't benefit from concepts like labor leftism. They don't benefit from concepts like unionization. They don't benefit from concepts like contact theory, which is another thing you need to look into. Contact theory. The truth of it is, human beings are capable of crazy motherfucking things. And we have far more in common as working class people, and most of us are, than we have different in our little individual peculiarities. And organizing along the basis of what we share is such an effective way of cutting past those barriers, making people see the truth behind the arguments we've been making for all these social causes without ever having to make the argument to them. Ultimately, you cannot convince with reason one who did not arrive at their position with reason. This is a quote that was originated by Jonathan Swift, I believe. It just basically means, like, you can't really bring someone over to logic. Like, that you can't bring them over to the side of reason and logic if they didn't arrive at their position with it. So the best thing you can do is show them a counterexample, or give them a good emotional argument or something like that. You have to subvert that, right? It's one thing if somebody just has a misunderstanding. You can correct that. You can fix that. You can re-inform them. If someone is genuinely just interested in knowing the truth and thinks the wrong thing, right? But if someone believes something because it's emotionally powerful for them to believe it, you're going to have to subvert that emotional feeling in them in some way. And one of the best ways to subvert that is to be a marginalized person in the close community of people who are dismissive. Just like Venezuela has oil, nothing to do with drugs. Exactly. Venezuela has tons of oil. Venezuela has tons of minerals, not just oil. They've got diamonds, they've got gold, they've got all kinds of shit. They've got coltan. And we want it. We want them resources, baby. A big reason why I'm not religious is I believe in humanism, which is as the people have more power than the divine, and it's our humanly responsibility to help everyone so we all have an opportunities. Exactly. And I use a very similar basis for my politics. You are not going unit people just because they are working class when they are diametrically opposed on morality. If you cannot settle that difference, two people won't come together. That's just not true. That's just not true, Cameron. That's just not true. You need to look into Daryl Davis. You need to look into the black man who convinced over 20 fucking people to leave the KKK. People who were in positions of power in the KKK, too. Convinced 20 different Klansmen to leave the Klan. Basically because he was a black man who, like, was there. We're talking about dudes who had literally never met a black person before, or who had only ever met black people in very specific conditions of servitude and shit like that. We're not talking about far away and long ago either. We're talking about in the last 20 years, last 30 years, last 40 years. And Daryl Davis was able to do this because he shared one thing with these men, despite not sharing their politics, despite not sharing their skin color, and despite certainly not sharing their racist preconceptions about the world. You know what Daryl Davis shared with these people? Growing up country. Growing up poor in the South. And that is the basis upon which Daryl Davis forged friendships with white nationalists who probably wouldn't have looked him in the eye had he not made such a concerted effort over so long. And he ultimately made these people confront their racism by allowing them to become such good friends with them that whenever, racial politics did come up, Daryl could say things like, well, hold on. Well, that can't be true because look at me. Blacks aren't shiftless. I mean, look at me. I'm always on the road touring. I'm playing music every time I get a chance. And the guy would be like, well, yeah, but you're different. He's like, oh, no, not really. I grew up poor like that kid probably did on the radio we were just listening about. I had some run-ins with crime in my youth. Well, you probably did too. Daddy might have been a moonshiner. Yeah, and he was just so charming and willing to let their microaggressions and macroaggressions slide and confront them in this way that left them unable to respond with derision, unable to respond with defensiveness. And it worked. It just flatly it worked. But even better is the evidence of our own eyes. We have watched over 200 years of American progress. If you look at the founding feedstock of America, America started out as an incredibly puritanical place. In early America, in colonial what's up, Melanie? In colonial era America, it was illegal for a white person to date or marry a black person, which they were not even referred to as black people. They were referred to as a different word that starts with an N, and as slaves, or a Native American. And as racial classification laws evolved, there were other races added to that list of exclusions as well. Indentured servants, aka poor white people who sold themselves into short-term slavery over on the mainland or over back home, they were also completely subjugated, completely subject to the will of the rich, completely subject to the will of the landed male population with lots of money. There were poll taxes in all of colonial America that excluded even freeholding poor people. Like, even if you did happen to own land and were, like, it really, people say, oh, the only people who could vote in early America were, landholding white dudes. And it's like, it's actually worse than that. Not only did you have to be a landholder, you had to have money. Like, you had to have enough money to pay the poll tax and shit. You had to have enough money to pay the, well, there were all kinds of weird different ways that they would make sure that really only rich people could vote. There were various tactics that could be employed. What about socialism in New York? What about it? Have we seen socialism in New York yet? I don't think we have. By the way, to the weird person leaving comments on my shit, I don't give a fuck what you have to say about anything. I don't care about your opinion of me. I don't care that you think I need to lose weight. Good for you. Keep thinking it. It sucks that few people like you and I know that we can all unite and be a better country and people in general. It's just to spread compassion and to be curious rather than hateful and hearing others. I know. 100%. It is possible, though, and that's what's important to keep in mind. It is possible. It is a real tactic. It does work. You live in Manhattan? Damn. What's the socialism like up there, man? Poll taxes existed in colonial America, but they were primarily revenue-raising head taxes on adult males, including enslaved people, to fund local government, not primarily to restrict voting. Yeah, but some of the colonies definitely made them high enough so as to restrict voting. I believe there might have also been religious exemptions in some places. Like you couldn't vote unless you were Protestant, but I might be making that one up. Damn it, I need to quit hitting that thing. Nothing yet? Well, that's kind of what I figured. You know, I'm of the opinion that even if you guys do get hit by a little socialism, it's probably going to take a while. By the way, if you're a fan of this channel and you watch regularly, please do me a favor by watching the video that I most recently uploaded to my channel on my videos tab. Once you get done with this stream or in the background or whatever, please, 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 please watch that, because it will help me immensely and it'll help put that video out to more people. So consider hitting that content up at some point. Would make sense. Protestants and Catholics had fatal beef. Yeah, dude. Fatal, hundreds of years long beef. They still kind of got beef. Catholics and Protestants to this day don't really like each other. I can see why, you know, big schism and all that. I get it. Lots of bad blood there now. It would or will take a long time. Yeah, I mean, I think like the changes that you guys might see, I think they might be implemented, but I think it's going to take Bomdani a while to get there. You can't just make the buses free overnight, you know? If you're going to make the buses free, it only makes sense if you're also going to make them better. More accessible, more useful, more stops, and like more accommodation for them. Accommodation. Do you know who Jacqueline Glenn is? Yes, I do. She uploaded a video when Trump got reelected, and same with you, that I've only found people in my 25 years living who seem to understand how to help this country. Yeah, I don't know what Jacqueline Glenn was saying when Trump got elected. Actually, it's funny. Jacqueline Glenn is a long time YouTuber. One of my good friends and mentor, TJ, is somebody who's made a bunch of responses to Jacqueline Glenn way back in the day. Actually, Jacqueline Glenn got called out on plagiarizing, and it was TJ's friend Paul Seco, who I've had on the stream a couple of times, that ended up making the big video that kind of exposed Jacqueline Glenn's, like, her fucking, what is it called? Plagiarizing? At least I think it was him that made the video that exposed it. Or maybe he just did a video responding to the allegations. I don't remember. It's not free, it's funded by the taxpayer. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, what I should say is free at the point of service, paid for by taxes. Is that better? That makes more sense, right? By the way, you can't be named Jim Halpert but not be pro publicly funded buses, okay? Jim would be pro publicly funded buses. Are you trans? Yes, I am trans. Free. Who's going to pay for them to upkeep? Taxpayers. Free at point of service, paid for by taxes. Sorry. I guess I wasn't specific enough for the autists in chat. By the way, hit that like button. I haven't pimped it much this stream, but there are 148 people watching. If half of you guys hit that like button right now, that'd be 70 fucking likes on top of the 66 we already have. So please hit that button. Or double tap your screen, whichever one you've got available. I really don't care which one. It still engages the same way. That's the thing, you have to convert to our morality. Conservatives do what the law extends, and we do things based off morality. That's why we're correct. No. If you guys do what the law if conservatives did what the law demanded, then Trump wouldn't have just went in Venezuela illegally, like fucking invading them overnight at fucking 2 a.m, kidnapping their leader. He did not consult the international community. He did not fucking try to even seek approval from Congress. These are not the actions of a president interested in the rule of law, nor a party interested in the rule of law. Thank you, Winston, for remaining a member for 5 whole fucking months. You guys should really join the membership. I am doing members only content every fucking week now. You guys really need to hit those memberships up. Thank you so much. Greasy wipes and chunky flushes. Ugh, gross. W. Winston, yeah, 100%. You guys join the membership. It's cheap, dude. Either level you join enables you to see members-only content. I've never heard of her plagiarizing. Is there other people who are more about solidarity leftism? Oh, fucking yeah, dude. Fucking there are, but don't feel bad. Like, Jacqueline Glenn is not someone you need to throw in the wastebasket just because she plagiarized once, okay? It's a mistake. She owned up to it. I'm not trying to throw her in the garbage bin. I was just letting you know about a fucking interesting factoid from old ass YouTube history, from 10 years ago. Yeah, so there are plenty of other leftists that are interested in solidarity leftism. Brianna Joy Gray is a person you should check out. Kyle Kulinski is a dude you should check out. He's not as big on it as some others, but you can kind of Paul Zigo is probably the best proponent of solidarity leftism that I know of. If you search solidarity and labor, Paul Zigo, you can watch him talking about this concept and elaborating on what I was talking about. Oh, honestly, I'm elaborating on what he was talking about. I should just clarify that real quick, But you can also follow Deep Fat Fried. They are a podcast that has talked about this a lot. Paul Zigo and TJ Kirk are both on that podcast, and they've gone into extensive leftist coverage of different topics over the years. You'll just have to kind of look at their library to see specific episodes that'll interest you and specific talks that'll, pike your fancy. But what would be even better, honestly, because I can't, have as much access as some things can. I know we don't like AI, but, right, sometimes it can be useful for stuff like this. So if you type, what are some good YouTube channels if I want to get into solidarity-focused leftism, you will get some recommendations that'll 100% be useful and interesting. Either way, thank you for the interesting fact. I definitely might ask in your Discord inbox for more resources so I can really delve into this. Yeah, for sure. I'll try to give you what I can. Opinion on the dispute over Charlie Kirk and how people slander his name. You mean him possibly, I don't know, dude. I don't know what people are doing to slander his name. I know people are making fun of him, but that's not slandering his name. People make fun of people all the time. Dead people especially. Dead people are almost more prone to get made fun of, honestly. But as far as people slandering him, I don't really know that I know of anybody doing that. Unless you're talking about Candace Owens, her clout sharking ass. I mean, she might be slandering him, but it's impossible to know, right? What is Charlie going to do? Refute her? I never heard of Charlie Kirk until he was killed. That was awful to see. Sad. That is the truth, honestly, for the vast majority of people that now know who Charlie Kirk is. It's because he got killed that they ever found out in the first place, and that is perhaps the saddest thing about his life and death in general. It's just the fact that he's more renowned for his death than he ever was in life. Even though he was a pretty prominent figure on the right, pretty powerful figure on in terms of his effectiveness in the election and his ability to help get Trump elected. Just, didn't really become a household name until that shooting. Almost didn't like to keep it at 69. Aw, Vivian. I'm glad to see you're in here, though. I'm glad you're watching. If Denmark is going to fight back, which they should, then there will be more. Yeah, I mean, if they fucking choose to fight back, if they don't choose to do what Europe usually does when they see the face of authoritarians like this and just allow for constant appeasement, then it's going to be an all-out war. I don't know that there will be nukes involved, but there will definitely be European people fighting American people, and it's going to be fucking crazy. It's going to be fucking crazy. It's going to be legit crazy, dude. Because, like, there has not been, in modern times, there has not been a conflict between the West and the West. Like, there has not been an international conflict from within the West in a long time. And, like, since the last Great War, you know? Since the Great War, there's not been any, like, not really. And, well, I mean, there kind of has, like, Russia's been aggressive, but that doesn't count, Like, I'm talking from threats from within, right? So what is the internet going to look like? Are people from Europe going to be super pissed at people from America? And are people in America going to be LARPing like they're super pissed at people from Europe? What is it going to look like? Like, what is the fucking online atmosphere going to look like? If we don't get 100 likes tonight, I'm going to crunch people's potato chips. Oh, God, you guys heard that threat. Holy shit. You guys got to get us up to 100 likes. Come on, let's see it. 100 likes. 100 likes. 100 likes. 100 likes. Europe and America all already don't like each other. I feel like they kind of love each other, honestly, or usually kind of do. I mean, they're very much reliant on imports from us, and we're very much reliant on imports from them. We do a lot of business with each other. Our billionaires help hide their money over there. I feel like we got a pretty good relationship that's being quite strained right now. But maybe I'm wrong. Not the chips. Yep. Hi again, your favorite anarchist hedonistic cult leader here. Hey, Sonophobia. Well, it seems like you found the right spot. For Venezuela, no, not yet. I guess it just depends on how you define war. The U.S. announced they would run it, which means regime change, not war, but turmoil will ensue. Yeah, whenever Marco Rubio, by the way, is asked about elections in Venezuela, all he can say is, elections? I mean, I don't know why you're so worried about that. I mean, we literally just got there, basically. So it's like, we're not going to see some democratic process emerge there anytime soon. I don't know why people are looking for that or even thinking that it's going to happen. It's just flatly not going to. What's your take on the fact that multiple psychiatrists say Trump shows every sign of psychopathy? Not fucking surprising at all. I mean, I think we all kind of have known this for a while, right? I mean, he's either massively in the stages of decline, or he is like actively a psychopath or a sociopath or something. There's just no other accounting for the kind of shit that he's doing, for his complete, utter disregard for the rule of law, for his complete and utter disregard for human lives, for his complete and utter, like, he does not strike me as a dude who is dominated by a whole lot of human empathy. Well, it's only unethical if you're a fucking psychiatrist. Glow in dark. It's unethical if you're a psychiatrist. If you're just some layperson, then you're allowed to say that their behavior looks however you want, whichever way, because nobody is supposed to take you seriously on that shit, right? Like, you can't get in trouble for practicing medicine without a license just for telling somebody, this, that, and the other thing. It's really once they start paying you for that advice, and like, or once you start representing yourself as some kind of authority. But I mean, you can say all kinds of fucking quack ass shit if you just preface it with, I'm not a doctor, but rubbing Cheeto dust in your ass crack can actually help you avoid colon cancer. And it's like, now you don't get flagged because you said, well, I'm not a doctor first. Nobody's supposed to take you seriously, so you have no ethical obligations. Ethical obligations are an extension of overall obligations and professional obligations in this particular instance. How do you feel about puberty blockers for kiddos? I think that children should be provided whatever medicine and whatever treatment that their doctors find appropriate for them. I have no comment on it further than that. I know that sounds like a cop out, but it's really not, because and people want, my thing is well, medical science has an answer to the question, you know? I default to the medical community's answer on this. And the medical community's answer on this seems to be that, a young person exhibiting signs of being trans benefits from therapy, and a person who benefits tremendously from that therapy and still thinks that they are trans benefits immensely from puberty blockers until they're able to get on, feminizing or masculizing hormones, whichever one, and it just proceeds from there. But I'm not their doctor, and I don't want to make broad, sweeping medical decisions for big groups of people, so I default to the medical community's, knowledge on this. I assume that doctors and scientists are probably capable of figuring this out, considering the fact that most people that get surgeries live. I would assume that if we just didn't know shit about medicine, then people would probably die on the table a lot more often. Traditional constitutional law supports separation of powers. Republican law supports the separation of powers. 100% agree. What's your opinion on yesterday's nationwide ICE protests? I want to see more of it. We need to see them sustained. It is not enough to protest ICE for a day. It is not enough to protest ICE for a few hours. We need them. Frankly, we needed them today, too. I don't know. I still saw ICE protests going on today, which is good, but we need ICE protests to continue for weeks, and they're probably just not going to. Our country has an attention span problem. My country is currently going through a major attention span problem. The 24-hour news cycle and the ubiquity of social media has led to a real deficit in our attention span. If you think Trump was legit empathetic about Charlie Kirk, I'm sorry for you. That was such an act. I'm sure he has a crush on Erica as well. He did that because of the Republican Party. Oh, I agree with that. I don't think Charlie Kirk was mourned much by the president. I'm not trying to make this sound rude. Is this actually a legit question from someone not in the LGBT community? But how does one distinguish themselves between being a feminine, man, masculine, F, or trans? I don't know. I guess it's the degree to which they are comfortable being referred to with the gender designation that corresponds to their sex of birth, right? I get deeply uncomfortable being called a man by someone that knows me. Random strangers on the internet, random people that don't know me or whatever, it's whatever, you might get it wrong, it's fine. But if someone knows me and they're using it to hurt me, it does kind of bother me, and it's kind of you know, but it's not even because I know that they're doing it to bother me. It's it hurt me that same way and felt as gross and foreign back when I hadn't came out as trans. And that was one of the big things that made me think, I am not just someone who wants to dress in a more feminine way. I'm not just someone who wants to be more out and flamboyant or whatever. I am someone who is trans because I tried it out. I legitimately had 2 or 3 people in my life that kind of knew, and I let them, I encouraged them to let me see what a feminine identity did for that problem. If I felt that same discomfort and alienation, and I didn't. I felt reasonably at home on the planet for the first time in my life. Okay, so he didn't pardon himself. Big deal. He got out of it anyway because he's rich. The rich and powerful never get punished. 100%. Rich and powerful people don't get punished. We need more like you, Phoebe. Aw, thank you, Uncle Flanus. You're kind. I appreciate you. The courts actually had a ruling on this matter. It wasn't just, well, Trump rich, so no jail. I mean, it pretty much was Trump rich, though, no jail. Like, the courts had a ruling on it that favored Trump because Trump can afford better lawyers than other people in the country can. And because Trump can afford to pay off judges even if the lawyer doesn't work out. And because ruling against Trump is a good way to get your political career in trouble, especially if you're a Republican judge. Oh, they're onanists. I know this for a fact, though. You pardoned many of the rioters on January 6th, so even if you think Trump had no part in the act. So, yeah, 100%. It is questionable. Can you afford to rewrite the law in his favor, too? What the fuck? Can you afford to rewrite the law in his favor, too? I mean, kind of. I mean, would you not agree that it kind of seems like that's what he's doing? Yeah, like, kinda, yeah. Apparently he can. Something's giving him that position. Something's allowing it. Like, and it's not just the fact that he's president. I think it's the fact that he's so well connected, that he's such a fucking, like, just like baseline, viscerally cruel business magnate dude. What is your stance on the war on drugs? The more I think about it, the more I believe we as people should pay a bit more taxes so people have access to help that does not cost an arm and a leg. So I think the war on drugs was literally, it's not just something I think, by the way, the war on drugs was literally created by the Nixon administration in order to combat black people and hippies, basically, the anti-war movement. And it has no basis in law. It has no basis in anything other than a misplaced hatred for drugs and for black people and hippies, ultimately, on the part of Nixon and John Ehrlichman and other people in the high-level Nixon administration. So I think that we need to immediately begin seeking other tactics to deal with this problem. By the way, if anybody wants to make sure their comment or question gets read or answered, consider sending a super chat. I do read every single one as long as it doesn't violate TOS. You can also donate with my Cash App, which is down in the description. We made it through year one? Yeah, we made it through year one, that's for sure. I think Trump is a puppet like George W. Bush. I mean, I think, like, how much does that cost? I don't know, man. I don't know how much it costs. But I think Trump's I don't know if Trump is a puppet. I just think that Trump's, yeah. Is he a puppet or is he behaving exactly like a puppet would because he's part of their class? Like, is he behaving exactly like they would want him to because he's a part of their class or because he's being controlled by them? Man, interesting conversation going on in the chat right now. Whiteness is the most lame thing to be proud of. I 100% agree with that because it's literally based on the false premise that, like, Irish people, Scottish people, and English people, and French people, and German people, that the thing that unites them on average is not this fucking fact that most people in those countries are poor. It's not the fact that they have similar dining customs and eating customs and all that shit. Like, there's a million other things that you could focus on, right? It's not the fact that they are all from within this same little area in the world. It's not that they're all European. No, it's the color of their skin, which, by the way, is not consistent throughout these different areas. People in Ireland are tend to be whiter than people in Scotland. People in Scotland tend to be whiter than people in England. People in England tend to be whiter than people in like France and Germany, and people in France and Germany tend to be a lot whiter than people in Spain and Italy, and people in Italy tend to be a lot whiter than people in Spain and fucking, uh, you know, Greece and etc. Like honestly, the further south and east you go in Europe, the less white you get. But in the mind of a white racist, everybody from the Caucasus to the fucking Irish Isle is white. And that's just, like it's not, like the only thing they have in common is like lighter skin. And that's not something that actually binds people together. And cultures and religion and values and family structure, they really don't, though. So, are you really going to say that British culture is identical to German culture? Or you're going to say, oh, well, they're kind of different. I mean, they're like different, but they're similar. They're very similar. But I would just say, like, I mean, like I can pull you up a city of Japan. Like I can pull you up a picture of a city in Japan, or a picture of a city in Canada, or a picture of a city in Mexico, or a picture of a city in fucking Venezuela that is indistinguishable from a city in Germany. Might actually be a fun thing to play with you guys one of these days. Get some of the Nazis in chat to guess with us. And that'd be fun. Have them guess wrong. Ooh, look at me. I'm special because the sun can hurt me more than you. I know. What a weird flex, right? Being proud of culture is cool as long as it's not exploitative. I agree with that. How are they able to integrate so well into one another, whereas other groups from other countries cannot? I would disagree with the premise. I think that German people actually have a pretty hard time integrating into France and vice versa. British people often have a pretty hard time integrating into Germany and vice versa. I mean, it's easy for them to all get along and go around each other, presumably because they've been around each other for so long. But there is still difficulty in moving from place to place, and really getting settled and feeling at home. Like there's going to be difficulties, but there are also lots and lots and lots of Muslims and non-religious people and people of different cultures and things like that that have come into these European countries that have assimilated just fine. They're still Muslim, or they're still polytheistic, or they're still Hellenistic, or whatever they are, but they are obeying the laws and wearing the clothes and buying the consumer goods. They're there. They're assimilated as you should need them to be. Like, why is it not just important that they wear the right clothes and have the right consumer goods on their shelves and have the right language in their pocket? You also have to make sure that they're eating the right food and making the right food. I don't agree with that. I think the cultures should be malleable. I think the cultures should inform one another. I think the cultures benefit from allowing that kind of interplay. Who's going to integrate more easily, a Frenchman or a Muslim from Egypt moving to Germany? I would probably say the Frenchman, but I would attribute that more to geography and less to some strict ideological divide. And these days, it might actually be different, considering that Germany, in its search for lots of cheap labor, has imported tons of people from the Middle East fleeing the U.S.'s imperialism down there into the country to help, build their citizenship numbers, which are kind of dwindling. Like got an aging population, a lot of people that do get successful in countries like if you get successful in Europe, you can go to America and be super fucking rich, or not even super rich, but you can be like wealthy enough to where it makes sense. Like it still makes sense for a wealthy person in a lot of Europe to move to America because they can get so many tax breaks. They can get so many tax breaks, they can keep working some job in America, and for the amount of money that they're bringing over there, they're going to have way more, than they would in their home country with their own cost of living. I checked stream when I got off work to say hi, and I'm home now. Hey, welcome home, welcome home. That doesn't make sense because by that logic, Canadians and Mexicans would be the ones who assimilate the easiest, but that's not the case. I mean, Canadians do assimilate super easy into America because America is basically just Canada too, and Mexicans do as well. Most of the people that you see not integrating very well into America coming from Hispanic countries are not Mexicans. They're people from further south of the border. They're people from like Central America. And, I've got no problem with it, but I'm just saying, like, a ton of Mexican people speak English as a second language. Mexico's a pretty fucking developed country at this point. Depends on the Canadian province. Some parts are hardcore Euro cosplayers. Fair enough, fair enough. And that is how we had Mexican flags being waved in California and fighting police saying California belongs to Mexico. You realize you had that before fucking California became part of the United States, right? Like, do you even get the argument that they're making? You guys love imperialism. Well, how about this? Maybe they're just fucking advocating for their own right to imperialism, right? Because according to you guys, what is it? Just America's the only country that's got a right to do imperialism? I think that Mexico's got a right to assert a claim over fucking California and Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and New Mexico besides, and Texas as well. I think actually rightfully belongs to Mexico. I think most of the western U.S. belongs to Mexico, if we're just being honest here. It was imperialistically taken from them in the Mexican-American War. Stolen from them, in other words. In an imperialistic conflict. And I think that if Mexico wants to steal it back from us, they would be perfectly justified in doing so. What would be your possible justification? What moral basis would you have for it? Because the argument a lot of you guys make is might makes right. We can conquer it, so we should get it. Well, what if Mexico can conquer California? Shouldn't you be for it? I mean, shouldn't you be for whatever happens? I mean, hey, why don't they send their army over and get it? Because I don't think actual Mexico itself wants California. I think that there are fucking activists, Mexican activists in California that are trying to make the point that America has a very long and lurid history with imperialism, and that because of that, we are literally deporting people who like kind of have an ancestry claim to this country, if we're just being honest. Like we're deporting tons of Mexican people, even though now we're deporting tons of other Hispanic people as well, but we are still deporting lots of Mexican people too. And like Mexican people have a legitimate, actual, real ancestry claim to the United States. Like they just do. Sorry, I didn't make it that way. Ask the United States why they conquered California, why they conquered Texas, why they conquered Nuevo Mexico. I didn't make it that way. Ask them why they needed Colorado. Mexico is also super reliant on U.S. trade, tourism, and agriculture after we Gutted the agricultural infrastructure of Mexico and South and Central America. Yep. That's funny. Yeah, there is tons of agriculture, by the way, that still goes on in Mexico, but it's all for export. It's all for export. The global markets function best if everybody's exporting and importing things. Don't you love it? That's why, by the way, growing your own food is an act of resistance. As long as you're not actively exploiting people through your culture, I think it's okay to be proud of culture. I agree. Yeah. Be proud of culture. It's good. You're just moving the goalposts, so now some exploitation is good now because it depends on how people exploit what now. Much of the Central and South America were basically slave colonies for Europe and the US till the 60s. Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. And in some ways, it hasn't gotten much better. I mean, there are still huge imperialistic interests that have their hands, you know. I mean, literally, think about it. Days, literally, not even days, but earlier in the day, or like the day before we did that big invasion of Venezuela, China had made an $80 billion deal with them. The collateral for which, by the way, was those oil fields that we just took over and have said that we're going to control indefinitely. So I guess it'll be China we'll be negotiating with for that oil. Or maybe we'll just cost them $80 billion. I don't know, man. This country is so insane right now because it's being ran by an egotistical crazy dude that I really don't fucking have any idea what'll happen. How about we ask China why they needed Tibet, Arabia, why they needed the Levant, North Africa, why the natives, why they drove other native tribes off hunting lands, brutal wars, it's the same everywhere. Yeah, it's fucked up every time. That's the point, is that it's literally a fucked up thing that we should stop doing. Hey, you know what else is something that human beings have done for a really long time? No matter what the culture, no matter what the time period, no matter who we're talking about? Stabbing each other with knives, and like watching the blood gush out of their body. Is that something we should just normalize? Because, people do it no matter what, man. Oh, we shouldn't even try to curb the behavior because people are going to do it no matter what, man. So who are we to judge, dude? That's just such a blithe little fucking swarmy fucking mealy mouthed weaselly response, dude. Have some balls, have some fucking tits, have some ovaries, have some cojones, have whatever you gotta have in order to have a position on this that is not blithely allowing imperialism to happen tacitly with your speech because you refuse to call it out for what it is directly. We should all dance around the fire singing Kumbaya. I mean, you laugh, Jim Halpert, but as a person who's been to lots of rainbow gatherings, unironically, yes, we should all hold hands and dance around the fire and sing Kumbaya and some other songs as well. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm simply saying people make it out to be simply a European issue, but it's constant among all races and cultures. Oh, okay. Well, I still think that that's kind of wrong, dude. I like the fact of it is the kind of violence that was happening in between the tribes of the Native Americans, for example, is not comparable to the type of violence that the Europeans were able to enact. Like like Native American societies would go to war sometimes, but they weren't leaving typically they weren't leaving the battlefields full of just endless fields of dead. Interestingly enough, the only like Mesoamerican culture we know of that um fucking committed mass death in that way was like the Aztecs, who would do mass sacrifices. People live in a fairyland like the human condition will ever change. Jim Halpert, you just sound bitter. You just sound like you've gotten really bitter about human beings, and you don't see the good in us because you haven't seen it personally visited upon you, or you haven't chosen to visit it upon other people. And so you don't see us as capable. Well, I'm sorry, Jim, but I do. We live in the U.S. and profit immensely from the U.S.'s ongoing imperial pursuits. Of course, we're talking about the USA. Duh, yeah, of course. What other country we're going to talk about? Japan? What are they doing? One last call for super chats or Cash App donations. Anybody that wants to support the channel, support the show, support my ongoing fucking drug habits. JK, just kidding. That was a joke. Kind of. But anyway, anybody wants to do that, consider donating. You guys are awesome. Viewer supported channel, 100%. That's what we monetize off of. You guys are the way that we keep going, and I appreciate y'all for that. You're trying to catch me in an either or. Different cultures have different levels of historical exploitation. No exploitation is good, and we should work to remedy past injustices. Yeah, different levels. Yeah, that's kind of the point I was trying to make just a minute ago with the same person too, is that there are different levels of historical exploitation. Not everybody did it to the same degree, and we shouldn't judge all of them equally. Nor should we seek not to remedy some of the more recent and egregious breaches of conduct in the past merely because there's a historical precedent of that behavior over the long term. Like, yes, slavery was always a bad thing, even when it was being done in the Babylonian society. But we don't know who the fuck is descended from the people that lived in Babylon. For all we know, that population moved out and moved away and was replaced by some other population at some point. And for all we know, that's happened 35 times. So we don't know. But we do know, roughly, vaguely, who descended from slaves, for example, brought here to the United States. We do know, roughly, vaguely, whose families, still to this day, benefit from a legacy rooted in slavery, which, by the way, there are still quite a few. You might not know about them, but you can look it up. Just literally use Gemini or something and search how many families in the United States, how many wealthy families in the United States have ties to slavery. And it'll tell you tons. Tons of them. So we know, like it's easy to find this information out, and it's easy to extrapolate the solution of the problem from there. Or I guess you can go a few different directions with it, but to me it's easy. No. Cam, you don't understand. No. Coming to your fucking land. Number one, Native Americans did not go to other tribes' land and kill them all and start occupying that land. That's not how a territorial dispute went on in Mesoamerican society, okay? So, ancient Mesoamerica, ancient Native Americans were pretty renowned actually for their ability to form large overarching confederacies, such as the Iroquois Confederacy that you would find in the Northeast, or the Cherokee Confederacy that you would find in the Southeast. Many of these tribes learned to live in, relative peace with all of the syndicated tribes, and they also had a robust trade network, which, by the way, trade and commerce is an indication of peace, not of war. But there was abundant trade between the Great Plains tribes, the Mound Builders, the Cherokees, the Iroquois, etc., etc., or the Choctaw Confederacy. I don't remember. I get my names confused because I'm not some Native American scholar, but I do know enough about the way that they lived before white people to tell you that it was not colonization that they were engaging in, even when there was a territorial dispute of that nature. Even when there was a territorial dispute where some branch offshoot, like some offshoot tribe, had come onto somebody's land, like there was, like, most likely, if they didn't intrude, if there was no need, like, and it's not that Native Americans were necessarily always averse to the idea of war. It's just that they don't seem to be, like, from what we know from the historical record and everything else, it doesn't seem like they were very prone to it. Whereas Europeans are very particular about their private property, Native Americans kind of looked at land as a thing to be shared by all of those who have to inhabit it. Whereas Europeans are very concerned about the individual allocation of resources to individual people, Native Americans just kind of look at resources as a thing that exists to be hunted, gathered, processed, and distributed when needed, ultimately through collective effort and, like that kind of thing when you have to. Like, that's not necessarily unknown, but the idea of, like, I've got this giant store of grain and nobody else can get to this grain and we're not going to let anybody else eat this grain. Like, that's an idea that was pretty well missing from Native American societies. This isn't even the noble savage trope, by the way. This is literally just factually true. It is a matter of fucking fact that the Native American cultures that inhabited this land before white people arrived did not have the same concept of private property and did not have the same concept of motive to war. To them, a bad deal was an indication that you shouldn't trade with that person in the future, or an indication that you should trade worse with them in the future. But to a European, a bad deal might be a sign that you're untrustworthy and therefore worthy of being killed, executed, destroyed. It's a matter of fact that Native Americans took land from each other constantly. There are nearly no tribes that did not participate in this practice. All right, if you say so, boss. You know what? At this point, and 2 hours in, it's easier to just placate you than to argue. So whatever. Sure. The Iroquois Confederacy survived as long as it did by constantly warring with itself and constantly warring with everybody else. And they maintained all those trade routes and all those earthworks by constantly warring with each other and constantly warring with everybody else. And they remained largely in the same places for so long by constantly taking over everybody else's land and constantly going other places. Yeah, totally makes sense, man. Yeah. That's why they're like distinct genetic groups of specific Native American areas that you can tie to specific regions of the United States, because they were constantly taking land from each other and invading each other's spaces. Makes sense. Totally makes sense. Just wanted to say, even though I don't agree with all your views, I appreciate any human being who's trying to do better than the typical bumper sticker philosophy most use these days. Well, I can tell you this much. I at least try to avoid that kind of thing. Are you people liking the stream? You guys should be. Goddamn. Misrepresenting what I said, but if you don't care for good faith back and forth, that's fine. No, I'm just saying, like, you're not refuting my arguments. You're just saying, nuh-uh, they did this. Well, that's not what I've heard, but okay. Like, I just feel like we're at an impasse with our facts here. My citation is A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. What is your citation? Let's just see how our fucking data compares. And we'll let the court of public opinion sort it out. Because we clearly have a fundamental disagreement on fact here. Which is why I don't want to proceed, because there's no point, right, in arguing. Like, am I going to make you believe some different version of reality? No. Are you going to make me believe some different version of reality? Not unless you show yourself to be better educated than Howard Zinn, you know? So, just feels like for us to go back and forth on this particular thing. Because we clearly have a difference, not of opinion, but of the perception of reality. I'm just saying that all the evidence points the other direction. Like, I don't even need to cite Howard Zinn necessarily. I can cite the evidence of like 23andMe and other genetics companies that have extensively surveyed people and extensively tested remains and shit like that. And researchers have pretty much determined at this point that there are a number of distinct different genetic groupings of Native Americans, something that would only be fucking possible if ethnogenesis was achieved. And ethnogenesis is only possible if you're not interbreeding that much. Interbreeding is a thing that always and reliably happens with conquest. You do not conquer another people without interbreeding with them. I'm not saying that it never happened. I'm not saying their society was absent of it. I'm saying that we brought a degree of it that was unseen on this continent. Upon our arrival in Hispaniola, the population of Arawak Indians is theorized to have gone down from as high as 8 million to as low as 500, and eventually they were just completely eradicated, and now there are no more Arawaks anymore. You like the stream? Well, good, Micaiah. I too like talking to walls. Isn't it fun? Isn't it great? Leave her potato chips out tonight, chat. It'll just be easier that way. Yeah, don't make her break into your cabinets. You guys haven't hit that 100 fucking like goal yet. Have you ever tried aromatherapy? Isn't that just having good smelling shit around you, basically? If that's the case, yes. I'm gonna have to get off here soon though, because I'm fucking hungry and I'm tired, and that's a good recipe for going inside and eating some pizza. Some pizza leftovers. Do 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 do. Pizza leftovers. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Pizza. Yeah. War Before Civilization, The Myth of the Peaceful Savage, Oxford University Press, 1996. This talks a lot about how Native American tribes warred with each other for land and enslaved one another. Okay, cool. Interesting. Are you untimed out? Yes, you are. But we are leaving now. Alrighty. Goodbye, friends. I will see you guys later.